We're gonna be checking out a new experimental build for the game, and the developers heard our plea, and we have been saved. Hello everyone, I'm Kibitz, and welcome back to Satisfactory. Where last time we figured out we had a few issues with the fluid trains, and that they can't transport enough liquids at a time. However, we found a pretty good way to solve the problem by adding in an extra fluid train, and by changing up our train stations so that they can handle the extra capacity. And with that issue solved, we're actually able to use the oil to start making some plastic and other things. However though, there are some other issues that we ran into, like transporting fluids vertically is a bit of a hassle. And also, since we're collecting all of the oil on the map, we actually don't have enough space in our train station to actually transport it all back to base. So we're gonna be kind of solving these problems today. So it's pretty much Gibbs Complains About Trains episode 3, in a way at least. There is some cool stuff I wanna show you beforehand, and that's that I have been busy on the live streams, and check this out, but I upgraded our storage room production area. So this whole space, that's the free space around our main storage room, is used to produce all the stuff that goes into our storage room. So all of the cable, all of the copper sheets, the wire, and everything else is produced on this floor specifically and only for our storage room. But for the last little while, it was too slow because we were only using some impure nodes to produce everything. And by the time we got to the stage where we had computers being produced, this was not handling it. So went through and did a little bit of an upgrade. We added on an extra pure iron node to pretty much deal with all of the wire here. So now we're producing just an insane amount more wire, and a few more iron plates, just to increase the production. And while we did that, on the live stream, we went ahead and decorated the area too. So more windows, more walkways, more jazz to make the area just more pleasant to be in. Look at how it all turned out. Man, I love this kind of busy look. Wires going everywhere, balconies all over the place, windows, walls, the whole 9 yards. It's very nice. And we can actually walk around the area properly too. So there are now proper hallways, nice little viewing decks of walled areas, and much more. And we're on the verge of completing the whole space. The next step really is just unlocking new techs and automating stuff in our manufacturing room, and then this floor will be done. Well, that won't be for a little bit because we have to put this oil issue to bed here. Because we still have a lot of oil to bring back to base, and our methods right now, although they do technically work, they're probably not the best methods. Because our issue mainly stems from this here, the fluid train cars. Because these guys can only handle 500 cubic meters of any liquid per train car, which is not a lot. Because that's the equivalent of having only 5 stacks of items in a normal freight car, which is regularly this big. So I've been thinking and pondering over alternatives. One of which being is we package all the oil. So if we package the oil, we can fit a whole lot more into freight cars and transport it very efficiently, which is cool. Then we have our current solution, which we dealt with last time. And then the only other way to transport the liquids is through a giant pipeline network. And after thinking about all 3 options, the pipes are clearly the best way to go. Because each of them carry 300 liquids per minute, there's no throughput issues, and it's relatively cheap and space effective. So if you're transporting a lot of liquids in your worlds, I'd highly recommend just building a pipeline. However, that's not what we're gonna be doing here. Instead, we're gonna try out making a bunch of packaged oil and transporting that on trains. Not because it's the best option, but I think it'd be the most fun option. Because then we have to deal with packing up the oil, we'd also have to deal with bringing back and forth empty containers, and I think that'd be an interesting logistical puzzle. And also, it's a video game. You're meant to have fun, right? So let's have a little bit of fun. So let's kind of walk through how we deal with this issue. So we're gonna wanna make packaged oil. So right down here, 30 crude plus 30 empty casters equals 30 packaged oil, pretty straightforward. And this means we'll need 2 refineries for this process. one refinery to package the oil, and another refinery to unpackage it back at base. And also, the empty canisters are gonna be a huge thing to deal with too. And by that I mean, the trains leave our base with empty canisters, fill the canisters with fuel, come on back, dump off the full canisters, and then reload on empty canisters to the train to take back to the oil fields. That way we're not constantly producing more canisters, which would end up wasting a ton of extra plastic, and also because this is pretty much the most efficient way to go about it. Right, Mr. Train? Right. So let's get started here. And we're gonna be using a new train station and collecting oil from a new area just to kind of test this system out before we change up our other system. Because while it's working, we may as well let it run. Also, we can produce empty canisters with all of the oil we're bringing in. So that's convenient too. But anyway, looking into this, we'll of course need our trains. And once we got a train, we gotta think about how we load and unload this. Because now we have to do both dealing with the canisters. And in this situation, it's gonna have to be a 1-to-1 ratio, so one of the empty freight cars will be for empty canisters, and then the other will be empty to be loaded with oil. So we have to split these trains in half. And then next up, we have to find some more oil to bring back to base. And fortunately, I know of the perfect place to go. However, it's a little ways away, so we're gonna have to fly over. Luckily we got an airport though, so it should only take half a second. It's just over in this direction. So this one should take us about right there, perfect. Having an airport, #1 best idea ever. All right, and you can already see it. I've extended the train track out considerably, and I've already made a test station over in the spot. So we have 3 oil nodes here, a 2, and a 3, 2 of which are impure and 1 of which is normal. So that is 2 full oil pipelines of 300 oil per minute. And with that 300 oil, we have it running through what will be 20 refineries. They have to be overclocked, and then once overclocked, they'll be able to handle the 600 oil per minute. Right on, right on. With the 600 oil per minute, we then go ahead, we load that stuff up right into the first couple train cars, then we unload all the empties from the back into the system. And I have some storage bins for some buffers. And we just have it connected to our main in and out line there and over here. Cool. You ready for action, Mr. Bean? You better believe it, Kibs. All right, but yep, brakes on off, goes on over this way, scoots around the corner, and of course, stops in the station. I did build it right, yep, has 6 platforms, cool. Now the only problem we could have with this whole system, I'm pretty sure, is that we don't transfer enough canisters back to this area here. That could be the only problem. I've tried to overload it quite a bit. We're gonna have to see. Could be kind of spooky. Okay, well, you know what? I'm used to things getting spooky and plans getting weird, but this one was a little bit of a curveball. There's been an update, a new experimental build right in the middle of our project here. That is quite extremely relevant. In fact, I'm mentioned by name in the patch notes because the developers had heard my woes about the trains. And along with some other changes, we now have multiple hotbars. So now we can set up to 10 different hotbars if we want, which is incredible. Extremely omega useful. And also, ye ol' beep booper and the chainsaw have been updated too. So the chainsaw now looking all spicy, all on brand, and the sounds are much more subtle with it. And they kind of work too. So that's awesome. The beep booper looking a little bit more yellow, which is neat. Oh, and you can do this again. Oh, okay. So you hold left click. Neat. But super quick now that we have the multiple inventory bars. Oh brother, we gotta set them up. And the first one is gonna be a general hotbar when we're just doing everyday projects. So pretty much like the hotbar we're usually running around with. So that's looking pretty good. Then hotbar number 2 is going to be for making more fuel generators, because our Death Star project behind our base is still ongoing, and I've been doing a lot of additions to it. Then hotbar number 3 will be for building. Number 4 will be for machinery. Number 5 will be our exploration bar. Number 6 will be our wall building bar. Number 7 will be for decorating. 8 will be for hyper tubes. 9 will be for power. And then hotbar 10 will just be a miscellaneous one. But anyway, off to the change that has truly changed everything. And that is what's going on with the trains. And ironically, it really does throw a wrench in things because it both fixes things and breaks things. It's quite dramatic. And that is that the fluid trains have been buffed dramatically. In fact, all the fluid things have been buffed in the game quite dramatically. So, while this unloads here, we'll check out some of the changes downstairs with the industrial fluid buffers, which can now hold 2,400 cubic meters of fluid. So that is like double the amount now? Yeah, that's double the amount. The fluid buffers have been increased as well, whereas before they would have 300 cubic meters of fluid. Now they have 400 cubic meters. It doesn't say so yet, but trust me on it. Oh, no, no, no. And then finally, the trains are pretty cool too. Just have to wait a second for them to stop glitching out. And then we can see that they were buffed dramatically, where before they could hold 500 cubic meters of fluid, now they can hold 1,600. So that is over 3 times the storage capacity. And that works with everything perfectly, because the pipes still only hold 300 cubic meters of fluid. That means the throughput with a 1,600 fluid freight car will work extremely well, even with just one train. So we could delete one of the locomotives on this track. Of course, we'll leave them because they look freaking cool, but we could. But yeah, we're gonna be leaving this as is, and man oh man, the fluid trains are extremely good now. The throughput's gonna work out just fine. I think the only issue really is when we're going literally across the entire map to this location, that's when the throughput might become an issue again. But for now, especially for short range stuff, this is the bee's knees. Cat's pajamas. We are going to be fine. And for most future projects, we'll continue to use the fluid trains now. But now as for our current project, well, we're in a bit of a spot. There is no way we have to use the fluid canisters with a train that's this short range. Like, this train will easily handle the 2 pipelines worth of fluid. Easily. But we're gonna leave it as is, just for fun. And if we need this train station capacity later on, we can easily switch it up. It won't even be a problem. Barely an inconvenience. So, let's let this guy get moving and grooving. Now it should be heading back to base, correct? You better believe it. Good. And we're gonna finish off this project really quick and then work on more of our oil processing. Oh, but man, I love this experimental build, but it really did throw a wrench in things because I had this whole plan to test like throughput and stuff, but it's gonna work just fine. Like, exceedingly fine. Because having the packaged oil increases throughput still dramatically, and this is on a system that hardly needed it in the first place, so there's no point even testing. Everything will work out just fine. It's just what to do with all of the oil now. But you know what? We're actually gonna leave this as a wild card. I can imagine that having some packaged oil in our base, just extra, will come in exceptionally handy at some point later. Because bringing it up the base won't require pipes. We'll just have to hook it up to one of our conveyor lifts, which will be super convenient. And when we're on like some super late game project, and we need a bit more oil for it, this will be really, really quick to hook up. So we'll leave it be for now. And instead, we're gonna fix up our oil system that we tried to set up last time, which had the huge issue of not having our flow rate be the proper level. So our entire system we built didn't work properly. And we found out that the issue was this massive tower of pumps back over here on the side of the base. We spread them out unevenly and improperly, so the flow rate was being lost as the oil traveled up this tower. Hence why we wanted to check out other options, like packaging the oil. But now that the fluid cars are good again, well guess what? We're gonna keep this project, and I ended up fixing the whole thing. And by fixing, I mean I had to completely redo pretty much everything, and it took me forever. But this time I've made the system completely redundant by having the pumps every about 3 wall segments. You should be able to go for about 4.5, but I could not have this not work again. I would lose my mind. So I went quite overkill with things. And now we have, oh geez, probably at least twice the amount of pumps here. So we're probably taking up about 1,000 megawatts of power just with this pump tower here. So that's kind of extreme. But now everything works absolutely perfectly now. Our flow rate is at max. And again, thanks to our Death Star setup back here, we have quite the abundant amount of power. So I don't mind just throwing 1,000 megawatts here or there. We can spare it. But no, brother, why? Why? Oh, why didn't I see this coming? Mods don't work. No, our permanent day mod. Oh no, I'm gonna have to wait through night cycles. No, this truly is the darkest timeline. Figuratively and literally. That's devastating. But thinking things over here, it's reasonable to assume that mod will be updated. Like, the permanent day mod was created while I was live streaming, so it took the mod maker like a snap of his fingers. He's extremely good. So I'm gonna bank on it being updated extremely soon, like ASAP. And my episode plan was to continue working on the oil stuff here, but without the permanent day mod, this project's gonna take like another 6 hours. So we're gonna do a little bit of a mini project instead, and we'll deal with the oil, or at least the rest of the oil, next time. And as for this mini project, it's gonna be quite an important one, but we're gonna set up a personal train station. Because whenever I go out into the world and I wanna build something like another train station out there, usually what I do is I go ahead and I make a train and just add a few freight cars and fill up the freight cars with stuff I need. So we got our train down, we get the freight cars, we throw in like all the concrete, all the piping stuff, etc., and go off into the distance. But you know what would be really nice? If we had a nice storage room down here so we can make these trains really conveniently. And I was measuring things out, and it also seems that quite conveniently, we have enough space for 1 train station here. But instead, we're gonna have a row of bins so we can pick and choose what items we want. And then we don't have to constantly go to our storage room, come back down, etc. This will be extremely convenient moving forward. And we have to imagine how we're gonna use this. So obviously a storage bin's over here. Our train will leave this way and follow the outbound track. And then we wanna find a way to have the train come back in this way and jump on this rail. Oh my God, and it's so simple. We can just go down there and make this essentially work like another train station. In fact, wait a second. If we add on another train stop, although we don't need to use it, when we're just in the train, like for example, say we're in a train, this is on the other side of the map, we can go to the timetable, add the extra stop, turn the autopilot on, and then the train will take us there and we won't have to worry about it. We can even go AFK. Of course, when the train stops at the station, well then we'll have to just dismantle it or whatever. But that doesn't matter because we're just making things more convenient for me. Oh, but hold up, I got an amazing idea here. We will actually add on a few platforms because on most trips, what are we always gonna need? Well, we're always gonna need concrete, right? We'll certainly need encased industrial beams as well. And then of course we need iron plates because iron plates and concrete can help us make walls, perfect for more projects. So we're gonna have 3 freight cars attached here. I added on a 4th. I was thinking of what to use it for, but no. I think these are the 3 key items here. And the rest we can kind of like pick and choose from, which is probably easier said than done. Because now we have to get belts from all the way down here up to our hub. And you know, just saying that out loud makes me feel like this project's gonna be near impossible. But since we have to kill off the night anyway, I guess I'll try and figure it out. Okay, so I putted around on my jetpack for a little bit and this is impossible. There's no way. There's no way we're bringing all these belts down to the train station. There would have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times 2, 28 different belts going down to the train station. That's effectively like an entire item spine just for this little project to save us like a trip between 2 floors. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So we kind of have 2 options because we're not bringing everything down there. There's no way, no way. Option number 1, which we'll probably do regardless, is make like a super quick hypertube that goes directly from our hypertube hub down to the train station. But then aside from that, I realized there's an option number 2, which was actually done a long time ago. So when we first built our storage room, we knew that the bins would get full and then items would be sitting on lines all over the place. So I was like, yo, what's a smart idea to do with items sitting on lines? Throw it into the resource sink. So we have a resource sink behind our hub, way back there. And our system here has everything going from our factory into this large industrial storage container, where the top exit goes into this merger and the bottom goes into this bin down here. So we usually grab stuff out of the bottom bin, and the stuff in this top bin is split between that bottom bin and then the merger again. And this merger system merges everything together on an extremely slow belt, and everything ends up going into the resource sink. So that means everything's still running, we're getting tickets for days, and we're happy. Speaking of. But anyway, you've obviously noticed that this isn't running right now because we just produce things too slow. Like all the stuff that we build for our hub here is on its own separate system using pretty much just impure nodes and some trash nodes and inefficient factories. So our rates are like, what is this? 1 a minute, maybe, for some things? And everything is building up very slowly. So that's why I didn't want to connect everything to the resource sink, because we lose items faster than we get them back into the hub here. Now obviously we can do this with some items, like probably with concrete and other things, but instead now, why don't we just use this merger line to bring everything down to the train stations? Huh? Pretty good idea, eh? And that way we only need to bring down 2 lines. 1 line from over there, and the other line from over there. And we can still keep the whole cool look going. We just have to move and groove a couple things around. But it'll definitely be easier than moving a whole 28 lines, that's for sure. Of course, that makes it so we have a super mixed up belt, but luckily, we can just make ourselves a bunch of smart splitters, and we can kind of alleviate that issue. So we'll just line up a thick old row of 28 industrial storage containers. And once we do that, we need to make a pretty weird system with the smart splitters. So here's the problem with them. We are going to be sending computers, like just normal computers, and concrete down on probably the same line. Obviously, we're sending an insane amount more concrete than we are computers, so we need to find a way to balance things out properly. So right at these few first smart splitters, right out the left, we're gonna start kind of siphoning off the big stuff. Like concrete off to the left. We'll send the plates off to the left. Where are those bad boys? There they are. And then the encased industrial beams. And now they're split up immediately. They can just go on their little space-time adventure over to the loading zones. And we can connect this little system, or these few belts, up to their very own awesome sink. So yeah, I made this really nice overflow design. So everything comes through the belts, goes through a splitter. Half will fill up the freight platform. Once it's all full, everything will merge onto this line and go into a resource sink. Then the rest of the items we simply have to use the smart splitters for. And if something happens to build up, well, we can just hook up that item to this system and call it a day. All right, well that absolutely took a lot longer than 1 night cycle, but I think we have a system that can work. So everything is merging together onto the 1 belt from our storage room here, except for the 3 items I mentioned earlier: concrete, the iron plates, and the encased industrial beams. Because since those are the items we need the most of, I did manage to find a way to squeak just a couple more lines down. So they go through here, and these will feed directly to the train stations. That way those bins refill really quick. And then the rest will have a trickle of random items in them, because it's not like we're gonna need like 10,000 quickwire for a project, right? Probably only a stack, and we'll eventually get that through this system. But yeah, we had to go for quite the journey here. So we end up going through this floor, our turbo fuel floor, and just dropping straight on down, adding in a new big old pillar that looks really cool and adds to the aesthetic. And then from there, we go straight down through there again, and we end up here. And now down here, we just have the mass items that go into their freight platforms, and the rest end up going along the roof here, and that goes through our cycle. And this is pretty dang sick. So each of these are set for a specific item. So if we just check out one, out the left will go the copper sheets, so off into here. Then out through the right will also be the copper sheets, while out through the center will be any undefined, i.e. not copper sheets. So that way, since we're gonna be making lots of copper sheets, we'll have some that go into storage and then some that go over into the resource sink. And for items that I know we're gonna have a ton of, I've just been doing it that way. We've been splitting items up, so same with wire here, quick wire, and there's a few others that we don't have splitting up. Like the highest speed connectors, obviously. We're not gonna have those like going into the resource sink, or the heavy modular frames. We'd really wanna have a bin filled up first. But once a bin is filled up, we can switch this bad boy on, so the output goes to the left as well, and it will start draining into the resource sink, not clogging up the entire system. And yeah, the whole thing looks really cool. Should work extremely well, and this will save us a ton of time with all of our future projects. The only thing we really need with it is a name. So some kind of name for a train that's gonna effectively destroy the world. I thought of the production wagon. That's a freaking dumb name. Ooh, actually, I know a good one. Hey, that's not too bad. But no, actually, I have no idea what we should name the station. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway though, that is gonna be all for today, so I hope you guys enjoyed and thank you for watching. But have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.